There is a moment when something inside tightens, not enough to hurt, just enough to notice, a pause you don't remember choosing. Your breath stays shallow a second longer than usual. Nothing has happened, and yet something has. It's the kind of discomfort that doesn't ask for attention. It sits low, quiet, almost polite. You could ignore it if you wanted to. Most days you do. Someone speaks and the words land a little heavier than they should. Not cruel, not wrong, just off. Like a chair pulled back half an inch too far. You adjust yourself without thinking. You always do. There's a subtle shift in the room. No one else seems to feel it. That's part of what makes it strange. You wonder if it's you. You usually do. Your body leans back before your mind catches up. Your voice softens. Your eyes stay kind, but they don't linger. Something inside is already stepping away. No announcement. No reason given. If someone asked you what changed, you might not know what to say. Nothing obvious did. Nothing you could point to. That's the unsettling part. It doesn't feel like anger. It doesn't feel like fear. It's not even disappointment, not yet. It feels like distance being measured. You still listen, you still nod, you still respond. But the response comes from farther back now, as if you've moved one room over and are speaking through the doorway. Most people would never notice. That's not the part most people notice. They notice later. They notice the silence where there used to be warmth. They notice replies taking longer. They notice you're still present but less available. They think it's mood. They think it's stress. They think you're tired. You don't correct them. You don't explain. You don't even fully explain it to yourself. There's something quieter happening underneath. It starts long before the distance shows, long before the tone changes, long before the pause becomes permanent. It begins as weight, a familiar weight, the kind you've learned how to carry so well that no one sees it. You've carried other people's emotions without being asked. You've made space without being given space back. You've stayed open even when something inside whispered that you shouldn't. You told yourself it was nothing. You told yourself you were imagining it. You told yourself not to make it bigger than it was. So you stayed and stayed and stayed a little longer than your body wanted. That's where it starts to change. Not in a dramatic moment. Not after a fight. Not after being clearly hurt. It changes when the same feeling returns too many times. When the quiet discomfort becomes familiar enough to recognize on contact. When your body learns the pattern before your mind does, you don't get louder. You don't set ultimatums. You don't draw lines in the sand. You get quieter. Your attention narrows. Your energy stops spilling outward. You begin to conserve without calling it that. People assume boundaries are spoken. They imagine firm voices, clear statements, explanations followed by consequences. But that's not how this one works. This one arrives without words. It shows up as less effort, less reach, less bending. You still care. That's what confuses people. You haven't turned cold. You haven't shut down. You've just stopped crossing a certain invisible line inside yourself. You answer, but you don't offer. You listen, but you don't absorb. You stay kind, but you stop overextending. It's not punishment. It's not withdrawal out of spite. It's not a test. It's a recalibration. You might not even realize it's happening at first. You just notice you're less drained after certain interactions, that you sleep a little better, that your chest doesn't feel as tight. There's relief there, but also grief, because part of you misses the version of yourself that gave freely without needing to protect anything. That believed presence alone could soften edges. That thought understanding was always enough. But something in you has learned, not through logic, through repetition. You learned that some spaces don't hold what you bring into them, that some people lean without noticing the weight, that some connections ask without ever returning the ask. You didn't decide this consciously. You didn't sit down and plan it out. Your nervous system did. Halfway through a conversation, mid-sentence, mid-smile, it decided to stop spinning where there was no return. This is the part that rarely gets named. What looks like distance is often discernment. What feels like pulling away is often a body recognizing safety limits. What others experience as sudden coldness is usually a long process reaching its end. You didn't wake up different. You arrived here slowly. Each small moment you dismissed. Each time you stayed quiet. instead of honoring the tightening in your chest. Each time you chose peace for someone else over truth for yourself, those moments didn't disappear. They collected. And now, without words, without confrontation, something inside draws a line. Not to punish, not to teach, not to control, to survive. This boundary isn't about them. That's the part that gets misunderstood. It's about internal balance, about noticing when connection costs more than it gives, about protecting the part of you that feels too deeply to be careless with. You still show up, just differently. You stop filling silences that aren't yours. You stop smoothing over discomfort that didn't come from you. You stop translating yourself for people who never tried to listen. There's sadness in that. There's also steadiness, because for the first time, you're not betraying the quiet signals inside to keep the external peace intact. This boundary doesn't ask for recognition. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't even need understanding. It exists whether anyone notices or not. And often, people don't notice until much later, when they reach for the same access and feel space where closeness used to be, when they sense something has shifted but can't trace when. They might ask what changed. They might say you feel different. They might say you're distant. You won't have a clean answer, because it wasn't one moment. It was many small ones finally being honored. There's a quiet dignity in that, not loud, not righteous, just true. As time goes on, the boundary settles. It stops feeling sharp. It stops feeling defensive. It becomes neutral, like a door that's simply closed because it's no longer needed to be open. You don't think about it much anymore. You don't replay conversations. You don't rehearse explanations you'll never give. You just notice how your body responds now. Which spaces feel lighter? Which ones feel heavy before you even step into them? You trust that information more than you used to, not because you've hardened, but because you've listened long enough to know what happens when you don't. In the quiet, there's clarity. Not the kind that solves anything, the kind that settles. You're still capable of deep connection, still capable of warmth, still capable of care. You've just learned that not every space deserves full access to that depth. And you don't need to say a word for that to be true. The boundary holds on its own.